please join Representative Lindsay in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Members, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Shi will please call the roll.
Representatives Amabile, Bacon, Baisley, Benavides, Benavides is excused. Burnett is excused. Byrd, Bockenfeld, Basenecker, Rep. Basenecker is excused. Bradfield, Caraveo,
Here.
Carver, Catlin, Cutter, Doherty, Duran, she's here. Esgar is excused. Exum, Froelich is excused. Geithner is here. Gonzalez Gutierrez is excused. Gray is here. Hanks, Herod, Holtorf, Hooten, Judah, Kennedy, Kip, Larson, Lindsay, Lantine, Luck, Lynch, McCluskey, McCormick, McKean, McLaughlin, Michelson Janae is excused. Mullica, Neville, Ortiz,
Here.
Pelton, Pico, Ransom, Ricks, Ricks is excused. Roberts, Sandridge,
Here.
Sirota, Snyder, Soper, Sullivan, Tipper, Titone,
Here.
Valdez A, Valdez D, Van Beber, Van Winkle, Weissman, Williams,
Here. Here.
Woodrow, Woog, Young, Mr. Speaker.
With 62 present and 3 excused, we have a quorum. Representative Lindsay.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Journal of Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
Thank you, Representative Lindsay. I heard a no, I think, before the motion was called. That's okay. I don't know. this is a debatable motion, but we'll go to Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much,
It's
Mr.
Thursday.
Speaker. Representative Lindsay, you've asked us to approve a motion approving the changes or the journal as corrected. What did we have to correct? No, I'm just giving you trouble.
I'm like,
All right. The question before us is the adoption of the motion before us is the adoption of the journal as corrected by the chief clerk. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. It wasn't the best of the week, but the ayes still have, and the motion is approved. Announcements and introductions. Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, listen up for a little bit of joy this morning. Appropriations met bright and early at 8:30 a.m., and I'm proud to announce that the winner of our joke contest is Representative McLaughlin. Please come down and share your joke.
Representative McLaughlin, please share your winning joke.
I'd like to thank the Academy. This was just a really great honor. And I told my aide who gave this joke to me that I would split the winnings with him. So there's nothing there. What? I'm trying to remember it. It's apple turnovers. How do you make an apple turnover?
Oh.
Roll it down the hill. Thank you, Academy.
Representative Judah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have received permission to be absent after floor work tomorrow.
So approved. Representative D. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honor to serve with you too, Representative D. Valdez.
Thank you, members. I just wanted to come down here. Last night we had the Agriculture Hall of Fame inductees from individuals who not only have our barn open, with the individual who continue to voice for agriculture, Mr. Ulmer, Mr. Cooksey, Mr. Wick, and Mrs. LaSalle. Individuals throughout Colorado who continue to work on agriculture and make sure we continue voicing in more ways than one. And with that, today, there's individuals here from the Colorado Ag Leadership Program who continue to voice. They're not with us here in the gallery just yet, but hopefully they'll be here soon. And let's give them a warm welcome when they do. Thank you.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I, along with Representative Valdez and many other legislators from this esteemed chamber, have participated in the Ag Hall of Fame dinner last night at the Renaissance Hotel. And I just want to make a comment, and this will be short, Mr. Speaker. I normally don't come down on third reading. Oh, wait, it's not third reading. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. But we had two dairymen. One from Weld County and one from down in, I think, Representative Catlin's backyard, that all their lives have been providing milk to the grocery stores all across Colorado and the western United States. And if you've been in the dairy business, that is hard work. You got to get up real early in the morning, and you're usually up late at night making sure all the cows get milked. So two of those folks have been inducted. Additionally, an agricultural educator, both from CSU and Fort Lewis College, who started out in Fort Collins and then went to the southwest part of the United States, who has been teaching ag for 30 plus years, I think almost 40 years. And she's the best, according to Representative McLaughlin. And we need teachers to teach ag. In fact, the FFA, Future Farmers of America Foundation, sponsors this event because they're trying to grow the future of agriculture. And finally, and probably the individual that was awarded, there were two individuals awarded posthumously, but Brian Ulmer was a friend of mine. Grew up in New Raymer, involved in agriculture, and then got into the ag media business with farm reports and promoting agriculture. And this individual contracted COVID last year and passed away. But he passed away at a time where he was doing what he loved. And comorbidity and other complications in his health caused his demise, and we miss him. But if you don't understand one thing about agriculture, agricultural markets change every day, every week, every month. It's a commodity-based business, and has probably the clearest representation of free market economics of most anything, with the few things that I won't talk about. But I want us to welcome these Hall of Fame inductees. I want to tell you how important agriculture is to Colorado. It's the second largest industry. We cannot put our foot on the throat of agriculture. We need to embrace it, we need to hug it, we need to cherish it, and we need to give people in agriculture a reason to stay, not a reason to leave. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, we have people, good production agriculture folks, that have left the state or considering leaving this state to go to an ag-friendly state. Let's make Colorado an ag-friendly state again. Thank you very much.
Okay. So there was like some announcement in there. Can we just be careful that we don't like go off on policy or implications that don't fit in our announcements and introductions? Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just wanted you all to know that there will not be an Agriculture, Livestock, and Water Committee meeting today.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask your permission to be excused from March 7th to March 9th. Leadership has been notified, and I did receive permission from the majority leader.
So approved. Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you. This apple is not a coincidence. I'm talking about the Education Committee. We switched the first two bills. We're going to be doing 1202 first, and then we will be doing 14. But we will continue on with 1069, 1207, and 1066, and I'll see you there. Thank you.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, if it is Thursday, it is another fabulous day of finance, and we are going to finish out the week strong with 3 bills on our agenda. The first bill up will be House Bill 1143, second, House Bill 1109, and we'll finish it out with House Bill 1118. We will be meeting upon adjournment, so I'll make an announcement after we adjourn to let you know what time we'll be starting. Thank you.
Representative Hooton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker, members, Energy and Environment will be meeting today at 1:30 in LSBA, and we will be hearing House Bill 1159. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of House, State, Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs, we will be meeting upon adjournment in LSBA to hear House Bill 1266, House Bill 1161, and House Concurrent Resolution 1004.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Business Affairs and Labor Committee, we have a meeting this afternoon, but we are in a different room. We are across the way in Old State Library, room 271 at 1:30. We have House Bill 1200 and House Bill 1201.
Are there any other announcements or introductions? Seeing none, Mr. Schiebel, can we read committee reports?
Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1016 as amended, 1018, 1082, 1208 as amended, 1229 as amended, 1257 as amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Education, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1220 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 56 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Energy and Environment, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1232 be referred favorably to the Committee on Finance. House Bill 1225 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Schiebel. The next order of business is third reading of bills. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of House Bill 1156.
House Bill 1156 by Representatives Kennedy and Williams, also Senators Bridges and Gardner, concerning modifications of reporting requirements affecting the disclosure of information of individuals seeking elected public office and in connection therewith, changing campaign finance reporting deadline and clarifying a personal financial disclosure requirement.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1156 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1156 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Shi will please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. For those participating remotely, Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Stainridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Stainridge votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Titone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Titone votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 52 aye votes, 11 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1156 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1211.
Thanks, Tim.
House Bill 1211 by Representatives Soper and Gonzalez Gutierrez, also Senator Lee and Gardner, concerning the continuation of the Committee on Juvenile Justice Reform and in connection therewith, implementing the recommendation contained in the 2021 Sunset Report by the Development of Department of Regulatory Agencies to sunset the Committee on Juvenile Justice Reform.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1211 on third reading, final passage.
Assistant Majority Leader Gonzalez Gutierrez and Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request permission for a third reading amendment.
Oh, yeah.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Gobble.
I think gobble is for
I don't know if
Senate amendments to House bills. Since it is, I did make that change when I was a first year, and I believe it will be my legacy, the gobble. That being said, the question before us is to grant permission for a third reading amendment. Is there any further discussion? Do we want to talk about why or anything like that? Representative Soper.
Well, we just need permission first.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
Sometimes it
Speaker.
helps, sometimes it hurts.
This is
Representative
purely a
Soper.
technical change, so we certainly would love to have permission.
Okay. All right. So the question before us is permission to offer a third reading amendment on House Bill 1211. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Titone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Titone votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Representative
Yes.
Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 61 aye votes, 2 no votes, and 2 excused,
Well done.
permission to offer a third reading amendment has been granted. Assistant Majority Leader Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Amendment L003 and ask that it be displayed.
That is a proper motion. L003 has been properly moved and displayed. Further discussion. Assistant Majority Leader Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our absolutely amazing drafter came to us this morning and explained that, again, this is a technical fix with regards to the dates. Everything will be fine. I'll turn it over to Representative Soper if you'd like to add anything else.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we actually had gotten our dates backwards. Apparently yesterday was completely a dyslexic day, even for myself, so this corrects that.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L003 to House Bill 1211. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Tatone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Tatone votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 0 no votes, and 2 excused, House L003 to House Bill 1211 is adopted. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1211 on third reading, final passage as amended.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1211 on third reading and final passage as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Tatone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Tatone votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 0 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1211 is passed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Majority, Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1092.
House Bill 1092 by Representative Sober and Roberts, also Senators Bridges and Corm, concerning the issuance of loans by irrigation districts to landowners for certain purposes.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1092 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1092 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Sandridge votes no. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Tatone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Tatone votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 55 aye votes, 8 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1092 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Tatone, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1168.
House Bill 1168 by Representatives McKean and Mullica, also Senator Woodward, concerning permitting public schools to provide a higher education course to 7th grade students.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over House. I'm just kidding. I move.
It's a proper motion.
I move for the passage of House Bill 1168 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1168 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Tatone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Tatone votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 57 aye votes, 6 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1168 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Sandridge, co-sponsor. I think that deserves a moment of personal privilege. Yeah. No. You deserve a moment of personal privilege, Representative Mullica. Talk about how I didn't take a picture with you even though you were a sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1113.
House Bill 1113 by Representatives Van Beber and Kipp, also Senator Kirkmeyer, concerning amending the appeals procedure in dependency and neglect cases to minimize delay in achieving permanency for children.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1113 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1113 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Titone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Titone votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 0 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1113 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 37.
Senate Bill 37 by Senator Moreno, also Representatives Tipper and Judah, concerning modifications to the Tony Gramscis Youth Services Program.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Senate Bill 37 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 37 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Respectfully, no.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Sandridge votes no. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Titone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Titone votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Kip. Please close the machine. With 44 aye votes, 19 no votes, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 37 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Titone, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 64.
Senate Bill 64 by Senators Enzinger and Rankin, also Representatives McKean and Kipp, concerning requirements for neighborhood youth organizations that provide services designed for the development of youth.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Senate Bill 64 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 64 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Titone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Titone votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 0 no votes, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 64 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Titone, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the following bills be made special orders at 9:34 a.m. House Bill 1228, House Bill 1237, Senate Bill 91, House Bill 1229, House Bill 1257, House Bill 1016, House Bill 1208, House Bill 1018, House Bill 1082, with the hopes that we will get through all of these. If we don't, we will lay over the balance of the calendar later.
Seeing no objection, the bills laid out by the Majority Leader will be made special orders at 9:34 a.m. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House now resolve itself into the
Members, you have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Kennedy will take the chair.
Robin, we're just doing 5, not 3.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there's a request for reading a bill at length. Committee reports are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads. Bills will be laid over upon the motion of the Majority Leader, and the coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1228.
House Bill 1228 by Representatives Roberts and Buckenfeld concerning the continuation of the regulation of pre-need funeral contracts and in connection therewith implementing the recommendations contained in the 2021 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1228 and the Judiciary Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the committee report, we added an amendment regarding the age of somebody before property can go to unclaimed property or in the length of the contract. But we are needing to offer another amendment to the committee report. So with that, I move L005 to the Judiciary Committee report and ask that it be displayed.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So L005 encompasses a few different changes. First and foremost, it reflects some discussions with the State Treasurer's Office as regards to how they would claim the unclaimed property of these contracts. It also has the change in the age that we discussed at length in the Judiciary Committee. We are bumping it up to 115 years old or a contract that is 65 years old before any property would go to unclaimed property. Happy to discuss further, but that's the general outline of this amendment L005.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's an honor to serve with you.
Likewise.
I rise in support of this amendment. This was something we talked about at length in House Judiciary Committee. And one thing that I just want to express my thanks to the sponsors for actually following through. The real fear is that someone would be prudent in their end-of-life planning and that they would purchase a prepaid funeral plan when, say, they're my age, and then they would live to be 107. But before their funeral plan could kick in, it would have fallen short, been sent to the state treasurer, and let's say I had purchased it for $1,000, and then in the future it's cost, say, $5,000. Of course, we all know it's more like $12,000 to bury someone today. Then I don't get the advantage of having planned and been a prudent person there. And so this kicks it out to 115. It's the idea that hopefully no one sees this fall short, that hopefully they don't live to 116 and have it sent to the state treasurer. But I certainly appreciate this. And then 65 years is an excellent point in time, just because we don't necessarily want someone to plan for their end of life and then all of a sudden not be able to take advantage of that benefit. So I appreciate the good work you've done here. Thank you.
Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My comments are less substantive. This is a work of art. Has anybody seen this? And this is really a compliment to staff. So to Yolanda Love, this is remarkable. I didn't know we had margins that could get quite this big, because this amendment all fit on one page. That's amazing. You should look at the printed copy of this. So I actually agree with everything in this amendment. Thank you for doing all the work you did, because I know this has not been easy, but I appreciate it. And yeah, Yolanda did a great job.
Is there further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L5. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. We're back to the committee report. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Judiciary Committee report as amended is adopted. To the bill, Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is a sunset bill regarding pre-need funeral contracts. These are contracts that somebody makes with a funeral home company or a crematory prior to one's death, but then the contract is not executed until one of the parties dies. As you can imagine, that is a contract area that is ripe for fraud and deception. And so back in 1953, this body imposed a regulatory scheme to look over these contracts and make sure that senior citizens and their families were not preyed upon by companies who entered into these contracts. So this bill extends that regulatory scheme for 9 more years per the sunset recommendations, makes a few other changes as a result of DORA's recommendations. We worked very closely with the funeral home industry to craft these amendments. We also heard about Representative Soper's and Representative Bacon's very good genes and their very old living relatives, and so we made some adjustments to the upper end age limits to reflect the fact that some Coloradans are living longer these days. But this is an important bill to move forward because, as I mentioned, these contracts need to be overseen to protect senior citizens in our state. So I'd ask for an aye vote.
Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, as you know, we have an aging population in this state. And as the population ages, the pre-need contracts will become more and more prevalent, and that's going forward. So that's what's driving the need for continuing this particular scheme. So I would also ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1228 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill passes as amended. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1237.
House Bill 1237 by Representatives Robertson Will concerning county court judges in western Colorado.
Yes.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1237. There's no committee reports.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a great bill for Western Colorado. That's in the title. But what this does is clean up and make some changes for the judicial department so that more people can be eligible to become a judge in Garfield County and Rio Blanco County. Right now, there are county court positions in Rifle and Rangeley, but the statute says that in order to be a judge in those towns, you have to be a resident of those towns. They're small communities, especially Rangeley. So what the bill does is expand the residency requirement to the full county. This is gives the opportunity for more people to be a judge in those two communities. They would still need to have chambers and a docket in those communities, but they could live elsewhere in the county. It also moves Garfield County and Montezuma County from a Class C county court position to a Class B county court position.
Representative Will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Likewise.
My co-prime pretty well explained that, but this bill, I've probably not had a bill more district specific than this one right here. Talking about Rangeley County Court and Rifle, familiar with both of them. This is a good thing, and it'll help recruitment for judges as well for those positions. This bill makes a lot of sense. In fact, it makes all sense. So please vote yes.
Representative Catlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Likewise.
Thank you. I have one question for the sponsors. What does it mean to go from a Class C to a Class B, for example, for Montezuma County?
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Catlin. That's a great question. So right now, Montezuma County and Garfield County are operating as Class B counties in terms of their docket. They're running a full-time docket. A Class C county has the option of not having a full-time docket, but Garfield and Montezuma have enough cases to run a full-time docket. So this is really just going to bring the statute in line with what's already happening on the ground level. Those judges there are already being paid for a full-time docket, so that's why there's no fiscal note on this bill. There's no adjustment in the salary. It just sort of lines up statute with what's already happening on the ground.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1237. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 91.
Senate Bill 91 by Senator Buckner and Cook, also Representatives Harrod and Van Winkle, concerning making non-substantive changes to language and statutory provisions relating to the review of executive agency rules and in connection therewith, repealing obsolete and redundant statutory provisions and conforming other statutory provisions to modern drafting practices.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 91.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is from the Committee on Legal Services, and it includes non-substantive changes to rule review statutes. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I hope you can bring yourself to a yes vote on this. The Committee on Legal Services really deserves the credit. They worked long and hard especially during the fall months, to bring this bill before us, and specifically, credit should go out to the bill drafter who thoroughly scanned these statutes and brought them up to modern standards, Ms. Darling. She deserves all the credit, frankly, more than myself. In fact, what the bill does, it repeals obsolete, redundant language. And there were several times in statute where we in statute referred to the director of the Office of Legal Services as a man, and in fact, it is Miss Eubanks who is the head of that office, so we're simply just calling it the director when referring to that position or that person. I ask for a yes vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 91. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. No. The ayes narrowly have it. The bill passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1229.
House Bill 1229 by Representatives Weissman and Soper, also Senators Gardner and Gonzalez, concerning adopting cleanup provisions of Senate Bill 21271, which enacted 2021 recommendations of the Colorado Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1029 and the report from Appropriations.
To the committee report.
The Appropriations report includes a little bit of money for programming updates in the judicial branch. We ask for your support.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a cleanup bill from Senate Bill 271 from last year. Among other things that we needed to do was allow for a mechanism to be able to pay a specific penalty and surcharge to the court or by mail to the court. That was one thing that was not quite in the original bill, so we want to make sure that Coloradans who are paying a civil infraction are able to actually do so. That was probably the biggest change that occurred here. There were also some timing errors that needed to be corrected, and we are racing against the clock because Senate Bill 271 had a March 1st date in it. So right now we've entered this weird delta where we're trying to get this to the governor's desk as quickly as possible.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like Rep. Soper said, this is a cleanup bill to the civil infraction mechanism of 271 last year. I want to emphasize this is procedural in nature. We're not making any substantive change to what is a civil infraction or what is something else. Because this is pretty in the weeds as to the drafting and a few things were caught subsequent to committee, I have a few further cleanups, and I move L2, which is to the bill.
Thank you, Robin. To the amendment.
Okay, this is a collection of things caught by folks in the judicial branch who have to implement a lot of this, and the folks looking at the text closely from CCJJ. We actually caught a couple of simple site errors. That's part of what's on this amendment. Also, some terminology changes. The larger text in the middle, the new section, is to achieve what was always the intent, which is to make the civil infraction process kind of track the process that we already have for traffic infractions in Title 42. So that's L2. We ask for your support.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L2. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One more and last cleanup amendment. I move L3 to the bill.
To the amendment.
All right, thank you. Members, you'll see this looks like a lot of text. It really isn't. This is just because we need to amend kind of a clunky section. There's not a lot of all caps. There's not a lot of strike through. What's happening here is really only one thing. We are changing a reference to a traffic misdemeanor to simply a misdemeanor. That is the correct reference. That's all this is doing. We ask for your support.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L3. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment passes. Back to the bill. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1229 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill passes as amended. Mr. Sheeple, please read the title to House Bill 1257.
House Bill 1257 by Representatives Weissman and Soper, also Senator Gonzalez, concerning the adoption of the 2022 recommendations of the Colorado Criminal Juvenile Justice Commission regarding sentencing provisions for offenses.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move 1257, the Judiciary Report, and the Appropriations Report.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
The Appropriations Report appropriates less than 1 FTE to the Judicial Department for additional probation supervision consistent with the goals of the bill. I ask for your support.
Is there further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Appropriations Committee report is adopted. to the Judiciary Committee report. Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, as with the last one, there's some high technicality in this bill. Consistent with keeping that clean and some discussion that we had in Judiciary, I move L7, which is to the Judiciary report, and ask for it to be displayed.
Do you want me to talk about something?
We can both do it. Yeah, let's both do it.
To the amendment.
Okay, members, couple things going on in here. We had a pretty robust discussion about Section 1 of the bill in committee, and what the first part of the amendment does is to tighten that language up so that we are clear and appropriately limited in where heightened consequences attach to intentional and fraudulent misrepresentation of practice of a profession, and lower level penalties are there for things that are sort of accidental or ministerial, but we want to make sure that higher penalties attach only in these narrow circumstances. Another part of the discussion that we had is encapsulated down at the bottom in the changes that you see to Section 12 of the bill. There are actually two things going on here. One is to specify that the new offense provisions of the bill happen only after the effective date. That's important to make sure that there's not any kind of ex post facto clause issue pursuant to the U.S. as well as the state constitutions. We also encapsulate some of the discussion that we had in committee about some of the probation sections by kicking out the effective date of sections 3 and 4 so that they begin July 1 of 2023, which is consistent with a date for a directive given to probation to develop some new guidelines. That is in furtherance of robust discussion and was agreed to by CCJJ, so we ask for your support on that as well.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to further elaborate on the amendment, because I want to make it explicitly clear what's happening here. We did have a robust conversation in House Judiciary Committee concerning the unauthorized practice of a profession or occupation, and it was suggested by members of the committee that it was quite confusing what we were changing in Section 1. So I just want to read a line from the amendment to make sure everyone sees it. So if you look down on line 7 on the amendment, it says, and intentionally and fraudulently represents oneself as a licensed, certified, or registered professional or practitioner, and then this is a Class 6 felony. Intentionally and fraudulently represents oneself are the key words, and we definitely wanted to make sure we were explicitly clear. I also want to make clear that if you look down on line 16 in the amendment and 17, this is where, 14 and 15, we're changing the effective dates to make sure that the lines that are struck out under the probation element in the bill in Section 12, that won't actually take effect until we have a replacement. And so the conversation we had in Judiciary is that there's words that are being struck out, but what's going to happen in this delta of time? By kicking out this date, we ensure that that won't take effect until 2023, July 1st of 2023. So we won't have this gap in the law. And I'd ask for a yes vote.
Is there further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L7 to the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Representative Weissman.
No further amendments to the committee report, Mr. Chair. We just ask for support for the Judiciary Committee report as amended.
Very good. There is further discussion. Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And really, this is just clarification, and I can make this point on the bill. I wanted to clarify in the last amendment, you changed the effective date on the changes for probation, but my concern is bringing back the individualized behavioral matrix to the legislature for discussion and approval. That piece has not been changed. In other words, the only piece in the probationary section that's changed is the effective date. Is that correct?
Representative Weissman.
Thank you. To the question, yes, what we're doing in the Judiciary Committee report as amended is to delay sections 3 and 4, which are two of the most operative sections in the probation changes, to 7/1 of 23 to track the deadline set forth for judicial for the new standards or guidelines or matrix, if you will. I'm actually going to have another amendment about SMART Act to the bill, so I haven't gotten there yet. But so far, we're not requiring legislative approval of the guidelines that judicial is to develop pursuant to the CCJJ recommendations. So I hope that helps.
Is there further discussion on the Judiciary Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
I'll do
The ayes have it. The Judiciary Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now that we are to the bill, I'm going to let Rep. Soper speak to the guts of the bill, but we do have some pretty technical amendments, and I thought I would just do those first. And one of them is actually to the point that Rep. Carver and I just spoke of. So I move L6 to the bill.
To the amendment.
Okay, thank you. We could refer to this as the first Woodrow Amendment. Rep. Woodrow, and I think this is a solid idea, it was agreed to by CCJJ, and this is for the benefit of joint judiciary and really all of the rest of us. What the bill is doing substantively is to give some new direction to Judicial Department concerning the supervision of people on probation. This simply says that some information is to be brought back to us as part of SMART Act. Judicial and probation already come to us in SMART Act. We're just specifying that we want a little bit of heightened clarity about what they're doing pursuant to these new provisions in the first SMART Act that happens after the effective date kicks in. We think it's a good transparency measure. Ask for your support of L6.
Is there further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L6. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Representative Weissman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is even more detailed. This is basically grammatical cleanup. Again, credit to Rep. Woodrow for careful reading. I move L5 to the bill.
Beyond amendment. Just kidding.
Thank you. To the amendment.
Thank you. So this is on page 6 of the bill in the section giving guidance about when a summons issues by a probation officer. Rep. Woodrow took a close look at this and came to the conclusion that there could be a better way to state what is stated here. This is not intended or effecting any substantive change. As I looked at it, he convinced me, he's also convinced the Director of Probation and CCJJ that this is a better way to set forth what is set forth. Credit to Rep. Woodrow for calling this to my and others' attention, and we just ask for your support of this cleanup amendment L5.
Is there further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L5 to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, no. Seeing none, the ayes have it, the amendment is adopted. Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaking to the bill, I just want to explain what the bill does. First of all, the bill comes out of the CCJJ, which is the Colorado Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice. And just to refresh the members on what this commission does and what it's about, it's a 30-member group that consists of criminal justice policymakers, professionals from law enforcement, the defense bar, prosecutors, local government, judges, people who've been victims of crime, and people who've been in the criminal justice system. And together they make recommendations to the legislature. It requires members of the legislature to carry their recommendations, such as Representative Weissman and myself. It is not an interim committee. They tend to work year-round to be able to come up with these recommendations. The bill that you have before you, HB 1257, does 6 things. And these are all related to the cleanup from 271 as well. So first of all, we have public benefits theft. So we're changing the definition here to be the difference between the value of the benefit received and the value of the benefit the recipient applied for or was lawfully eligible for. It's really important here that we're not necessarily pursuing what a Coloradan was actually eligible to receive, just what they weren't eligible to receive as theft of public benefits. So think things like Medicaid fraud. We then take a look at the unauthorized practice of certain professions or occupations. One thing that you see throughout statute is for the first offense of a lot of these, it will be an M2, a misdemeanor level 2. And then for the second offense, it'll be a felony level 6. However, when it's intentional, and that was the amendment that we ran, that for specific occupations and professions, these will be felony class 6s. After all, these actually are things that could do major harm to Coloradans if someone intentionally held themselves out as that particular professional. We then move to the third element of the bill, which is POW. This is possession of weapons by a previous offender. One thing the legislature did last year is they moved everything back to only VRA offenses for which POW applies. We're expanding this list just a little bit more, so it was down to 50 felonies. This will move it up to a total of 110 felonies. By the way, we have over 600 felonies in Colorado, and previously, all 600 of these felonies meant that you could lose your Second Amendment rights. We definitely do not want that to be the case, and currently, for those of you who do follow the U.S. Supreme Court, they have accepted a case that's likely to overturn the Federal Gun Control Act of 1968 and the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986. So we're setting up a situation here in Colorado that for the most violent felons out there, that if they commit a subsequent offense, that they would not be allowed to have their firearms returned again. Moving down to the fourth element, we define the purposes of probation, and it's really important as our concept of how probation is handled that we do take a second look and to make sure that probation officers are able to have a tailored approach here. Probation, don't forget, is the cutting short of a prison sentence for good behavior, and so we want to make sure that this person is not falling for a technical violation such as being late and that throws them back into the correctional system, that we're able to get them back on track to ensure that we don't create new criminals. Fifth is part of the probation element, so kind of 4 and 5 are together. And then sixth, we talk about adding prison as an intermediate sanction as a place of confinement facility so that certainly someone could actually be confined in prison for a violation or in the county jail. So these are more technical in nature at the end of that. I certainly would encourage members to support this. It's really important that we are tough on crime. And one thing that we have seen over the last number of years in this body is an element to be soft on crime. And to now move in the direction of being tough on crime is something that I fully support. I think Coloradans across this great state fully support it. I know that when I look at crime statistics, I'm always shocked. And the ability to now have much more of a hardline approach once you've been found guilty, it's our duty as a state to make sure that that individual is adequately punished for victimizing Coloradans. And I'd ask for a yes vote. Thank you.
All right. Looks like we'll have some discussion. Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in opposition to the bill, and I want to focus my comments on the changes that we're making to the statute with regards to probation. In Colorado, we have set out by statute some basic rules for probation officers to follow as far as when there are certain violations by someone on probation, what the actions, or sometimes it's a menu of actions that the probationary officer can take. And so that provides some structure and guidance that applies statewide and some level of consistency. We are going to move away from that, and the amendment that the bill sponsors did add are helpful but not sufficient. So the bill as introduced would have eliminated the current rules and referenced what's called an individualized behavioral matrix. I'll use my language. In other words, it's a change in approach it's a system, a program that is going to be developed and brought forward. And while there are some criteria that are listed for this individual behavioralized matrix, that's all it is we're just seeing some of the basic criteria that are going to be addressed. And so we don't have the substance of what that substitute process is for how probationary officers are to look at different violations, whether it's first time or repeat, what the response is supposed to be. We don't have that system before us for us to vet, for us to look at as a substitute system for the statutory rules that we have long had in Colorado law. Respectfully, members, how we manage those on probation are critical to both public safety and the individual who is on probation, and that we want to incentivize them finishing their probation, moving back into society, and being successful, because we have a very high recidivism rate. So these are all valid concerns, but we don't have that individualized behavioral system in front of us. And it is, while it is helpful to have it be brought in front of the committee for a SMART hearing, that is not sufficient. That needs to come back to the legislature for vetting and review. So I did want to focus my remarks on that. I appreciate the amendments done by the bill sponsors in this area. We should not allow a system to be put into place that we have not vetted through the legislative process. To me, that is not acceptable.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you. And, I appreciate the perspective brought forward by my colleague from El Paso County, and I want to respond to it in some detail. There are several sections of the bill concerning probation. This was all extensively discussed by the Sentencing Reform Task Force of CCJJ, which, to remind members, is a broad group. It includes law enforcement voices. It includes prosecution voices, local government voices, voices of those who are themselves survivors of crimes. This is not a group of individuals wired for leniency. Frankly, it's wired for balance. It's wired for diverse perspectives. In conversations with the Director of Probation and others with the judicial branch, and in reviewing the materials of the Sentencing Reform Task Force, the matrix, to use that word that we're speaking of, is in fact already substantially developed. This is not something that started last week. A lot of judicial districts, I think, have already taken steps in this direction. And I agree that we want consistency. We are a very diverse state, but when we lay down the laws in the statute books here, we do want an element of consistency. And I believe that what we're doing here is taking steps toward that to level up all of our 22 judicial districts, including some that are not already doing this. Members, there is a 60-page slide deck to be found in the materials of the SRTF concerning the thinking leading to these probation modernizations. Our state has engaged a nonprofit called CJI, the Crime and Justice Institute. They have been looking at probation and probation revocations and what responses are appropriate both statewide and nationwide. We are expecting detailed reports both at the state level and the national level later this year. I will have it will be after session. I will have my eyes out for those. I'm happy to flag them for anyone who's interested. I do have a summary document here from our Division of Probation called Strategies for Behavior Change. That's what probation is about. I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but a couple of key concepts that they're calling out that are guiding this work. Celerity, love that word. In other words, you have to respond to an infraction quickly. Certainty, also important. Consistency, neutrality, proportionality. These are principles that we want in probation response. Probation, by the way, is the largest, by people under supervision, the largest type of corrective sanction that we have. There's almost 70,000 people on probation. It's far more than DOC, county jail, ComCore, anything else. So it really matters to lay down evidence-informed, modern, consistent law here to guide probation. I do think it is worthwhile to bring it back to SMART Act. We haven't updated some of these statutes that are being talked about here in decades. We have language on the books that reflects decades-old thinking, decades-old research in criminal justice policy. I just don't think that's the way that we should be doing it. Appreciate that there is another point of view that favors the approach that is set forth in the older language. That is not the approach that this very broad, very bipartisan Sentencing Reform Task Force of CCJJ landed on. So I do think it is an appropriate modernization in the name of public safety, in the name of responding appropriately and in an individualized way to those very different 68,000 people who are under probation supervision, so that we, the state, through our probation department and judicial, can right what is wrong, can teach what lessons need to be taught, can successfully discharge people from probation in a way that will set them up for success and non-recidivation. That's what this is all about. To me personally, this is some of the most important work that this bill is doing. And again, I mean, don't take my word for it. Don't take Rep. Soper's word for it. There are 30 people on CCJJ who participated in formulation of these recommendations and approval of them and bringing them to us. So I do think it's worthy of our support. Thank you.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the response of my colleague, Rep. Wiseman. I am not tied to the current statutory rules for probation. That is worthy of discussion, and CCJJ did have extensive discussion of that. I think that there is merit in looking at doing an individualized behavioral approach. What I object to is we give this task. Yes, we set out certain criteria, and that's good, and I don't have major heartburn with any of those criteria, but we are offloading this responsibility to a task force to develop and not bringing it back to the legislature for our review, our questioning, our vetting. Is it not the responsibility of the elected representatives to set a certain level of statewide standards for how our probationary system works? Why are we offsourcing this to a task force? Yes, a task force is important to get their expertise, to get the multiple perspectives, but then it should be brought back to the legislature. I won't be in the legislature next year. This is my last year, but that's neither here nor there. This is a legislative responsibility. And that is my concern with this section. And based on that, ask for a no vote on this bill.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple questions for the bill sponsors. I have some serious reservations as a rural legislator with this bill. Allow me to explain, fellow colleagues. First of all, it appears that we are taking the wholesale recommendations of a non-elected commission and putting those into state statute. One of the things I hear as I go around my district in eastern Colorado is that they want elected officials to pass and be the origin of statutes that citizens have to follow, not unelected officials, bureaucrats, stakeholders, or other people that may not have the best interest of the constituents and voters of Colorado. Now, to the bill sponsors, I have an important question. And I'm going to wait till they're finished talking, Mr. Chair, to ask my question. I know they're an important conversation. This is my third year in the State House, in the General Assembly, and I have watched legislation that has come through this chamber. Now, the rhetorical question is, are we going to be soft on crime or tough on crime? What are we going to be? Because I've watched the ratcheting down of charges in this chamber, statute that has been passed and signed by the governor. I've watched now where we're going to take the Colorado Criminal Justice Commission's recommendations, and I believe wholesale, and now we're going to ratchet up. And so I'd like to get the attention of the bill sponsors for 1 minute, Mr. Chair, and I don't know how I do that, so I might ask for your assistance. I'd like for both of you to listen. There's 2 bill sponsors, I believe, on the bill. Well, as we wait, I'm going to continue to dialogue, and I'm going to read something because you know how I like to read. On page 2 of the bill, under the bill summary, and I'll tie this to my point, it says, under current law, it is illegal for someone to possess a firearm if the person was convicted of or adjudicated for a Victims' Right Act crime that is a felony. The bill adds more felony offenses to the convictions that prohibit a person from possessing firearms. Now, to the bill sponsors, number one, I have 2 questions. The first question, is this a wholesale acceptance of the commission, or has it been fully vetted by the legislative body? Number one, but more importantly, representing Colorado and rural Colorado and agriculture. Okay, if I have, or I am a rancher, and it is calving season, which it is now, and a wolf comes and attacks my cattle and attacks my cow dogs, which are part of my family, and I have a firearm and I protect and defend what is mine, under this particular bill, is there a chance that I become a felon because I have done that act? With expanded animal protection, with an expanded animal protection department, and now a forensic analyst being added to that department within CDA, Colorado ranchers are really concerned about what that means. So to the bill sponsors, I really need to have a good answer on this because it matters. Thank you.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Holtorf. To answer your questions, it's really important to remember that at the federal level, any felony that's committed, that individual loses their Second Amendment rights for life. And that was the same in Colorado until last year. So you could still, at the federal level, still have it hanging over you with something done at the Colorado level and still lose your Second Amendment rights. To the wolf issue, let's say you shoot a wolf and you're prosecuted by our U.S. attorney under federal law. That, I believe, would be a felony. It's not a felony? Or, I'm pretty sure it would be a felony to shoot an endangered species. To the point of what we have changed here, it's not under a Victims' Rights Act, as far as shooting a wild animal. But what we've done in the bill, I do not see anything here that would make that a PALPO offense. unless you see something different in the text of the bill. So I definitely don't see that criticism there. The other element that I do want to make, and I'm going to ask Representative Weissman just to go over a little bit of the history here, is that this would have to be on your second offense. So you're already a known dangerous felon. And then you're in possession of a firearm that's specifically laid out on the PALPO list. So this is a known dangerous person out there that we're talking about. We're not just talking about someone that is protecting their livestock, which, by the way, has a really good defense in law. I would argue that all day long as an attorney. What we're talking about is like for example, you might have been referring to the cruelty to animal element. The if you hang a dog or you tear apart a cat limb by limb, that's what case law has looked at as cruelty to animals at the felony level. These are pretty heinous crimes when you think about it. It's the deliberate and intentional suffering of an animal that you have direct control over. And that's what the law looks at here. We can certainly dive into the statute to get the rest of the elements there as well. But with your example, this bill wouldn't be caught up by it, at least not at the state level. Perhaps at the federal level, but I believe the Supreme Court is going to overturn that because of Justice Amy Coney Barrett's dissent from a few years ago.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members of both parties, just to add to this, because it is one of the elements of the bill that's had more discussion within and without the building, a couple of things. Whatever federal law says about substantive offenses, about requirements of background checks conducted by FFLs on the occasion of transfer, we're the state legislature, we're not changing any of that. We can't. I think a key point that Rep. Soper made is when we talk about PALPO, we're going to keep using the acronym, but that is possession of a weapon by a previous offender. So if you have never committed any offense at all, per se, by definition, you can't commit PALPO. If you've never been convicted of a crime before. A little bit of history here, as Rep. Soper alluded to a number of moments ago. Previously, the net for PALPO was very broad. It was every single felony offense in Colorado, including, it used to be before some modern updates, you could get charged with an F4 for theft in the amount of $500. Let's be clear, you shouldn't steal $500 or any other amount, more or less, but should that permanently prohibit you from carrying a firearm and in fact subject you to another substantive offense if you are ever caught? That is something that was debated by CCJJ previously. As was alluded to, right now we're in the world where some of the most serious felony offenses, which are VRA felony offenses, are within. And what the bill does is add, and this is section 7 of the PALPO statute, beginning on page 16 of the bill. This adds a very carefully considered and negotiated specific list of felonies, which, as you'll see, are pretty serious here. This came out of weeks and probably months of discussion by the Sentencing Reform Task Force. Frankly, there were folks who probably would have wanted to add more, and there were folks who would have wanted to add less. The goal here is to balance a number of things, and that is the operative word of the SRTF and CCJJ, and frankly, everything we do in this building, balance. On the one hand, public safety. On the other hand, not unduly having felony charges brought against people. On the other hand, Second Amendment issues. To the point about animal cruelty, a key threshold point, I will call members' attention to the language in lines 4 to 6 at the top of 16. We're only talking about felony prior offenses here, not misdemeanors. Some of these statutes, if you look at them, I'm not going to read them all, some of these are only felony statutes. Some of these statutes set forth in the same section misdemeanor and felony offenses, depending on what the elements are. Animal cruelty is one of those. I'm going from memory here, but within the different parts of 189202, you will find both misdemeanor and felony animal cruelty. If you are committing a first offense and it is not really heinous, torture, that's a misdemeanor. That's out of this POW statute. The way that you end up with felony level animal cruelty is either by doing something truly heinous on the first instance, or you are convicted of a second or subsequent offense. I'll go pull the book here and I could come and read more about that. But since there's specific interest in the animal cruelty offense, which is something that we do talk about from time to time in judiciary, and here on the floor, I thought I would say a bit more about that. To the representative's point about legislative approval, that's what this bill is. This has been extensively discussed by CCJJ, which again includes everybody from defense attorneys to prosecutors, from law enforcement to people who've been in the criminal justice system, and everybody in the middle. This list was not casually arrived at. So I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to make sure that the record is clear from what I previously said. Shooting an endangered species like a gray wolf would be a Class 5 felony. However, that felony is not included on this list, on the POW list. So I just wanted to make sure that the record is very clear there.
Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to serve with you.
Likewise.
I rise in opposition to this bill. I wish the bill wasn't fast-tracked. We just heard it in committee last night because the preparation time to debate the issue today was rather short. However, I do want to point out some things in this bill. If you will look at the offenses in the bill, there's some of them that can be construed as being nonviolent. And I want to talk a little bit about kind of touch on the edge of what Representative Holtorf was speaking about as far as an agricultural component to this bill. He talked about a rancher or a farmer shooting a wolf. How about a domestic dog? And I'm going to tell you, as a former county commissioner in this state for 12 years, I had a case where one of my ranchers shot a neighbor's pet dog for harassing his livestock. The sheriff's department charged him. I don't remember if it was a misdemeanor or a felony, but I had some legal research done, and under the terms of the legal research, from going to animal cruelty to aggravated animal cruelty, the shooting of that domestic dog could be construed as being an aggravated case. Now, the sheriff charged this rancher for shooting that domestic dog. It went to the district attorney's office. The district attorney's office was proceeding forward, and thank God my rancher got himself a good lawyer who also went up and lined up some folks from the Colorado Department of Wildlife to argue with the district attorney's office about this particular case, and eventually it did get dropped. What happened if he wouldn't have had a good lawyer? He would have became a felon if he was charged under the aggravated circumstance. And now you got a rancher that this law would give you the capability of stepping on that person's Second Amendment rights. I tell you what, you take a gun away from a rancher, he's in deep trouble in a lot of cases. So there are cases out there where there is a rural component to this bill, and I wish we would have had time to clean it up, and it wasn't just jammed through last night through committee and on the floor today, so that we could have worked out these issues. And I want to know, why is this bill being fast-tracked? I want you to look at those list of cases of what they consider felonies under this bill, and you make the determination on your own which ones are violent offenses and which ones may or may not be violent offenses, but still could become a felony and still can impact the Second Amendment rights of someone. I ask for a no vote. Thank you.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, I think it's important that factually incorrect things not be stated down here. So the timing of this bill is that it was introduced last week, was heard in committee, not last night, Tuesday. Members have had every opportunity to read it since it was introduced. We had a 3-hour debate on this on Tuesday. Committee report was read over. We had all of yesterday. If anybody feels that that timeline is too quick, okay, that's a matter of perspective. The bill was not heard last night. The bill was introduced, has been a matter of public record to every member of this body and everybody else in the general public from here to every other country in the world with an internet connection since last week. Thank you.
Representative Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in opposition to this bill, primarily because it's kind of new to me that this is a different way of going about legislating. And though I really, really appreciate all the hard work that CCJJ put into this, I appreciate the fact that we have people that actually know and live in that world giving input. And there's really 6 bills here. And so it puts me in a weird position to how do I vote for a bill when I don't agree with all of it, and there's certain portions of it that are not even related to one another. So I do want to thank the bill sponsors for their amendment that does not completely gut the duties of a probation officer and leave a period of time where those folks are working without any sort of guidance. I do want to caution that what a probation officer's job responsibilities being replaced with is something that is yet to be determined, and I think that's dangerous. I think that's a job of this body to help guide that. If we're going to completely change the probationary system, I think that requires us in this body to have input on that. Once again, the CCJJ's put a lot of work into this, but taking 6 bills and putting them into one as a strategy in hopes that we can push through certain bills is not something I agree with, and for that reason, I cannot get behind this bill today. I would urge a no vote.
Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I stand corrected. Representative Weissman is correct. The bill was heard on Tuesday evening, not last night. But it was put on seconds last night. And we walk in this morning, and it's here this morning. Did we have adequate time to prepare for this debate today, or is this being jammed through? Why was this bill added just this morning, or last night, or whenever the majority leader put it up for seconds today? And we're supposed to have adequate time to prepare for the bill when we're reading the bill. We look at the bill and we find out it's being debated this morning and didn't have time to prepare for it? I still ask for a no vote.
Is there further discussion? Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure we are putting on the record actual statutory law and not just guessing what the statute is. So back to cruelty to animals, I wanted to make sure that I address this here in the course of the debate. If we look at 189-202, which is the cruelty to animals statutes, and then we move on to Section 7, it talks about how if animals are in the course of food production or for the farm or ranch or pack animals or for agricultural use or for husbandry or for research purposes or part of a research facility, they're not subject to the cruelty to animals statute. And then if you look down, it's a misdemeanor class 1 for cruelty to animals unless it's aggravated. And then it's a felony level 6. The only way that cruelty to animals would be a felony and bumped up to a level 6 is when you've had multiple instances of cruelty to animals. And it's important just to read what the element is that does make it a felony. A person commits cruelty to animals if he or she knowingly, recklessly, or criminally negligently overdrives, overloads, overworks, torments, deprives, or necessarily and unnecessarily cruelly beats or allows to be housed in a manner that results in chronic and repeated serious physical harm, carries or confines in or upon any vehicles in a cruel or reckless manner, engages in sexual acts with an animal, or otherwise mistreats or neglects any animal or causes to procure to be done, charges the custody of any animal or fails to do so as far as like food or water is concerned. But then to be able to bump it up to aggravated, it's the person who recklessly or with criminal neglect tortures, needlessly mutates, or needlessly kills an animal. A person who commits aggravated cruelty to animals is where they knowingly torture and knowingly mutate and knowingly kill an animal without cause. I would argue that in defense, certainly of livestock, I know there's other areas in statute where that is a complete and affirmative defense to be able to defend your livestock. Certainly coming from a district in Colorado where I represent more cattle than people, I'm very, very detail driven when it comes to making sure we get this right. So this does not take in the example that was brought up earlier, and I just want to lay it explicitly clear for the course of the debate that shooting a predator in defense of your livestock does not catch you up in the cruelty to animal element that otherwise would. If you mutate and torture an animal, and you are knowingly doing so, that would. So I just wanted to lay that on the record. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1257 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The bill passes as amended. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1016.
House Bill 1016 by Representatives Carver and McLaughlin, also Senator Heisey and Fields, concerning a voluntary contribution designation benefiting the Feeding Colorado Fund that appears on the state individual income tax return forms.
Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1016 on second reading and the appropriations report.
To the committee report.
They gave us the money we needed.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill would add Feeding Colorado to the Colorado checkoff, and I need to recognize the food bank. The Feeding Colorado has 5 food banks that cover the state of Colorado. And especially during COVID, they have seen a huge increase in demand. And we had representatives from, I think, all the regional food banks come testify in the Agricultural Committee talking about what they were seeing, the increased demand, the increased cost of food, the decrease in donations, and how they were having to go out and purchase more and more food as part of their mission, to many of it from local farmers markets. Something very important that came out in the committee hearing. And so this is a issue that came up when my own regional food bank had a legislators volunteer day. And myself and I believe Rep. Snyder and a few others, we came in and we were bagging up food. And the director, Lynn Tilford, said, Terry, we are having such a huge demand for food. We need more cash flow to help purchase food. Would it be possible to add Feeding Colorado to the tax checkoff? I said, what a great idea. And so I reached out to my colleague, and of course, This is an issue across the state with these food banks. And so we were very glad to bring this bill to the legislature.
Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you. This bill is voluntary, but it helps every person in the state. It's not just it's not a regional thing. These people are taking trucks out to all over Colorado to make sure that people are fed. Having food should not be a second choice for somebody. Everybody needs it, and we need to make sure that everyone is fed in Colorado.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize that my Southern Colorado Care and Share Food Bank provides food assistance to 30 counties. It is a huge effort, and the other food banks also reach out and cover every part of Colorado. Ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1016 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
Okay, thanks.
The ayes have it, and the bill passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1208.
House Bill 1208 by Representatives Weissman and McKean concerning changes to jail data collection requirements.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you. I move 1208 and the Appropriations Report.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
This is prorated for the calendar year 1/10 of an FTE to continue what we've been doing for a few years, less than $5,000. We ask for your support.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Folks, this is a program that we instituted a few years ago to try to copy what Larimer County has been doing for years with their dashboard of what we have in our county jail, and we felt like that data is really important to inform policy. We would like to continue that, and we find that as we do it, it gets better, and so we're asking for a continuation of that program.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you. Ditto, Rep. McKean's home county was really a driving inspiration for this. We're a local control state. We have over 50 county jails. They all have a lot of latitude, but the premise here was that we as policymakers should have a comprehensive data picture. So a bill that we did together 3 years ago now in 2019 directed DPS to create a data dashboard, which they have done. You can see it on their website. It's quite robust. You can download the raw data if you want. This is simply to keep that going. As you just heard on the other bill, we have pretty robust debates about substantive criminal justice policy around here, but we are united in believing that they should be data informed, so we ask for your support.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1208 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill passes. Majority Leader Eskar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee will rise and report.
Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
House will come to order. Mr. Shee will please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report has under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof and making the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1016 as amended, 1208 as amended, 1228 as amended, 1229 as amended, 1237, 1257 as amended, passed on second reading order engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 91 passed on second reading order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Representative Kennedy. Members, you have heard the motion. There are no amendments at the desk. The question before us is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Shee will please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. For those participating online, Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Sandridge votes no. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Titone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Titone votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes.
I guess that does use excuse.
Please close the machine. With 39 aye votes, 23 no votes, and 3 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Members, before we move to announcements and introductions, due to Representative Jackson's resignation from the House of Representatives that took effect on December 20th, 2021, there is currently a vacancy on the Legislative Council. To fill this vacancy, we have to do the same thing that we did for legal services. I now appoint Representative Exum as a member of the Legislative Council. This appointment requires the approval of a majority of the members of the House of Representatives by recorded vote. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the appointment of Representative Exum to the Legislative Council be approved.
Members, you have heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Caraveo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Caraveo votes yes. Representative Titone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Titone votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 62 aye votes, 0 no votes, and 3 excused, Representative Exum is now appointed as a member of the Legislative Council. Do we have to do anything before we get to announcements and introductions, Madam Major? Okay. Let's move to announcements and introductions. Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I forgot to announce today that education will be held in room 112 across the hall today, not 107. 112. Apparently not.
Can we give a quick shout out
No,
to the
we're at
kids that are
1:30, so yeah.
the kids that are leaving? Bye, everyone. Thanks for visiting the house. Representative Woodrow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I have received approval from the Majority Leader to be excused on March 9th, starting at noon, April 6th, and April 13th in the morning. Thank you.
So approved. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of State Affairs, please move quickly to LSBA once we adjourn.
It's not this, it's just this. I have Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And for all you fans of finance out there, we will be meeting in House Room 112 at 11:10. So see you there.
Great. I have a few announcements. Representative Hooten will replace Representative Burnett on State, Civic, Veterans, and Military Affairs for today only. Representative Lantine will replace Representative Caraveo, and Representative Bacon will replace Representative Michelson-Janae on Education for today only. And Representative Lindsay will replace Representative Judah on the Public and Behavioral Health and Human Services Committee tomorrow. Any other announcements or introductions? Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over House Bill 1018 and House Bill 1082 to general orders, second reading for tomorrow, March 4th.
Seeing no objection, those two bills will be moved out of special orders and to general orders for tomorrow. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I also missed, I'd move to lay over Senate Joint Resolution 2 until tomorrow, March 4th.
Seeing no objection, Senate Joint Resolution 2 will be laid over one day. Majority Leader Escar.
I move the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until later today.